Hello class. In this video I am going to explain the organs of speech. As you might know that the organs of speech are the organs of the human body that are used in the production of the speech sounds. Okay, in another video we will discuss the speech sounds and their types, that is vowels and consonants. For the time being here I am going to explain the organs of speech. So in front of you is the vertical section of the mouth cavity and the throat region, and there are some organs of the human body situated here. Actually, the primary function of these organs of speech is something different, and production of the speech sounds is their secondary function only. For example, the primary function of the tongue is tasting. The primary function of the teeth is grinding the food particles. Okay, like that. Now, these same organs, the human body parts, are used in the production of different speech sounds. So, they are known as the organs of speech as far as phonetics is concerned, as far as the study of language is concerned, and particularly the spoken aspect of language. We will start from the upper jaw. This is the upper jaw of the mouth cavity. This is the upper lip, upper teeth. And just behind the upper teeth, there is a hard, bony, concave structure that is known as the teeth ridge or the alveolar ridge, because alveolus is the Greek name, Greek term for the teeth. So this is known as even you can feel that in your mouth cavity in the upper jaw, just behind the upper front teeth. That organ is known as teeth ridge or the alveolar ridge. If you take your tongue further to the roof of the mouth cavity, you have a hard bony structure. It is known as the hard palate. Just after the hard palate, there is the part of the roof of the mouth cavity that becomes suddenly soft, and that is known as the soft palate or velum. So this is the soft palate or the velum. An interesting thing about this soft palate is that it can be raised and it can be lowered. It is the flexible organ. When it is raised, it closes the nasal passage. When it is lowered, the nasal passage is open, and the air coming from the lungs may pass through the nasal passage. So this is the soft palate or the velum. At the end of the soft palate or the roof of the mouth cavity, we have a fleshy pendant like structure that is known as the uvula. So these are the parts of the upper jaw of the mouth cavity. Now let us turn to the lower jaw. Here is the lower lip, the lower teeth, and the most important organ of speech, that is the tongue. You are well aware of the fact that tongue is the synonym for language, because we have a word like mother tongue, that is one's own language. So here tongue is synonymous to language. Without tongue, we can't produce the speech sounds. And it is again the most flexible, elastic like structure. It can be raised, it can be lowered, it can be rounded, it can be straight when it is in the horizontal position. So this, for the sake of our convenience, we have divided tongue into 4 parts. Tip of the tongue, frontmost part is known as the tip of the tongue. The part behind the tip is known as the blade of the tongue. The part of the tongue that lies below the hard palate is known as the front of the tongue, and then it is the back part. The sides of the tongue are known as the rims. The sides are known as the rims, RIMS. Just behind the tongue, there is a fleshy structure, that is the small structure, that is known as epiglottis. Now this muscular structure is known as pharynx, and this cavity is known as the pharyngeal cavity. Now after this, we go to the throat region. Now in the throat, there is, in our neck region, there is a hard bony structure, prominent structure here. You can feel that by putting your finger here on your neck. And that structure is known as larynx or the Adam's apple. Now this larynx or Adam's apple is the covering. Inside this structure, there is a pair of valves in this windpipe or the trachea. Now we know that here is the windpipe or trachea, and here this pipe is there, that is known as the food pipe. Now this windpipe or trachea consists of a pair of valves that work as a kind of door. Okay, and these valves are joined at the back and open at the front like this. And these can be held together and they can be separated. Now when these vocal cords, these valves are separated from each other, when they are away from each other, there is formed a cavity, a gap between them, and that cavity is known as the glottis. You know the English sound h, speech sound consonant h. Now this h is produced here inside this cavity, and that's why it is known as a glottal sound. So these are the organs of speech. Now here we can draw the lungs. Lungs form the respiratory system of the organs of speech, and when we breathe, we take the air inside that is stored in the lungs, and when we speak, the air is thrown outside the mouth cavity. The air is released outside the mouth cavity. Now this air it comes from the lungs, enters the windpipe or the trachea, then it comes into the pharyngeal cavity, and then it is released outside the mouth cavity through the oral passage or the nasal passage. It is released only through the oral passage when the soft palate is raised and the nasal passage is completely closed. And if the soft palate is raised, the nasal passage is closed and the air is released outside the mouth cavity. In case the soft palate is lowered and there is some closure in the mouth cavity by some organs of speech coming together, then this oral passage is blocked and the air coming from the lungs is released through the nasal passage only. And the consonants produced in this manner, they are known as the nasal consonants. For example, m, n and ng. So these three are known as the nasal consonants because at some point in the mouth cavity there is the closure formed and the soft palate is also lowered. Nasal passage is open, oral passage is blocked. So the air coming from the lungs is thrown outside the mouth cavity and the nasal consonants are formed. Thank you.